He points his finger down the hall where there is nothing to see at all and says, "Mama, she's right there." Ask Reddit on Reddit Rundown. What is the strangest thing you've seen that you cannot explain? When I worked in the medical field, I had a dream one night about a patient of mine, a very kind elderly woman, whom I visited once or twice a week. In the dream she came to me, dancing, and called out to me that she wasn't hurting anymore. I was so happy watching her dance after seeing her decline for years. When I got to work the next morning, I told my coworkers about the dream, and later that morning we got the call from her daughter that she had passed away the night before. I cannot explain that, but I am glad I had told my coworkers about it before the call and not after, otherwise they'd never have believed me. Such a bizarre experience, but so wonderful to feel she was at peace. Somebody replied, "I've never told anyone this before, but I've had the exact same thing. When I was much younger, 7 to 8, I spent a lot of time on pediatric wards. There was nothing wrong me, just that my dad worked days and my mum worked nights, so my dad took me to the hospital, where my mum worked, to chill on the ward's playroom for an hour or so before she finished work and took me to school. There was a regular visitor to the ward, Laura, not real name. She was always really ill. I've no idea what was wrong with her. But we used to play together a lot on these occasions. One night, I had a dream about her. We were playing and she seemed really happy, nothing overly significant, but I'd never dreamt about her before. Nevertheless, Dad woke me up to go up to the hospital, and I told him about the dream and that I was excited to see Laura and tell her too. Dad told me I had to go to Grandma's, because I can't go to the hospital today. Later that night after school, when I got home, my mum was still in bits. Laura had passed away during the night. I'm 29 now, and that is one of my earliest and most vivid memories. Still makes me well up thinking about it and how it impacted my mum. Fall 2009, I was sick, like super sick. It was a few weeks before my amputation and I was battling a severe bone infection. I was hopped on all kinds of antibiotics. I had a PICC line and would dose my antibiotics through these little balls, and pain medication. I'm a huge Yankee fan, so my best friend got us tickets for the ALCS game at Yankee Stadium. She pushed me around the stadium in a wheelchair with a shit ton of blankets on me. It was freezing, just to put a smile on my face. My friend leaves our seats to go get some hot dogs and stuff. This is where it gets weird. As soon as she leaves, to my recollection, an older Irish gentleman sits by me. He offers me some of his spiked hot chocolate, but I said no thanks and explained that I was on a lot of medication. We begin talking and I told to him what was going on with my life. He asked if I was scared to have my leg amputated, and I told him that I was. I was really frightened of the unknown. He gave me some pretty valuable life advice and comforted me. He assured me that it would be fine. He told me that, if you have to be an amputee, try to be the best damn amputee that there is. My friend comes back with food and asks who I was talking to. There's no one next to me. I guess I must have hallucinated this, but I don't know. It felt more like some kind of angel or being that came to me to let me know it would be okay. I guess my guardian angel is an Irishman with spiked hot chocolate. ETA. Not sure if this makes it creepier or not, but the Yankees were playing the Angels in that series. I once met this young homeless guy, probably about 10 years ago. Acted like he knew me. When I said I had no idea who he was, he said, "Isn't your name Beardmonger and you work in radio broadcasting?" I got right freaked out cause I had been applying to colleges for radio and there was no reason for him to know my name. I said no, but I've wanted to work in radio. Who are you? He responded saying it wasn't important and to ignore him as sometimes he gets confused between the present and the future, and just left. I never saw him again. It threw me off completely. I abandoned the idea to go into radio almost out of fear. I was driving home from work on the back roads and was driving behind a car that was the same make, model, and year of my car, just a different color. Further down the road, we both get into the turn lane to turn left onto a long, straight road with open fields on either side. The car in front of me turns onto this road and I wait for a car to pass, and then turn as well. It takes less than 5 seconds. However, when I turn onto the road, the car that had been driving in front of me was nowhere to be seen. This road has no turnoffs and it's long and straight so you can see pretty far ahead of you. The car had just vanished and I still think about it today. I have a dash cam now but I wish I had had one back then because I question what actually happened that day. Edit. I am 100% sure the car didn't do a U-turn. The roads are really narrow, so they wouldn't have been able to complete the U-turn without having to make it a 3-point turn or drive partly in the field. I also would have noticed because while there was enough time to complete a 90-degree turn in front of the car that was coming from the other direction, there was nowhere near enough time to complete a 180-degree turn without either causing a wreck or something. After I turned onto this road and noticed the car was no longer in front of me, I looked all around me and could see the other car driving away behind me, but the car that looked like mine was nowhere to be seen. There was nowhere on that road where the car could have pulled off or I would have seen it. It was still very light outside, around 6:30 in June, and the road was surrounded by cotton fields, I believe, which do not grow high enough to cover a car. I have gone through every possible explanation and there just isn't a logical one. A very badass Great Dane I knew, a former neighbor's dog, was so afraid of a month-old kitten that he ran into the deepest room of his home and didn't stop quivering and whimpering for several hours. For context, he wasn't a timid dog. Little over a month before the mentioned incident, a drunk man attempted to break into their home at night and the dog bit half of his left foot off. Standing outside of a convenience store, I saw 2 different cars park, about a minute or so apart, and go in the store. It was obvious the 2 didn't know each other, at least it seemed. After shopping, they each left in the other's car. Still can't explain it today without going down the CIA conspiracy route. I was driving away from a gas station. Out of nowhere a guy in a suit comes running up to my minivan and starts yanking the door. As if he knew me, he began pleading, "Come on, let me in." Luckily my doors were locked. I asked him who the hell he was through my window. He looked genuinely surprised that I wouldn't let him in. After I refused to let him in, his facial expression inverted, as if he just realized something horrible. He let go of my car, said something to the effect of, "You're one of them, aren't you?" Then he ran away behind the gas station and into the woods. Full suit and tie, nice shoes, extremely frantic in nature, zero explanation. I'm praying it was some elaborate troll or meth or something, because the look in that man's eyes was pure terror when I didn't let him in. Was sitting in my lounge room alone one night watching TV. Heard clear as day someone coming up the stairs barefoot. I thought it was just a family member coming up the stairs, but then had the oh fuck realization that I was home alone. For some reason I just sat there looking at the doorway waiting for whatever was coming up these stairs to walk through the door. Heard the staircase creaking and everything. Heard the bare feet get to the top of the stairs, step onto the tiles and take the 3 to 4 steps it would take to be inside of the doorway to the lounge room I am sitting in. But nothing came through the door, sat there for about 5 seconds waiting. Said to myself out loud, "Fuck dealing with that right now," and kept watching TV. I've heard other things like glass moving and footsteps and all that, but the second most notable thing I can't explain was me and my mom hearing something talk to our dog downstairs in a like mumbled male voice we couldn't understand. If I heard that on my own, I'd have just thought it was my brain playing tricks, but my mom also heard it. I was having a sleepover at home with a friend from school. We were watching a film and suddenly the weirdest thought comes to me. Her dog has just passed. Obviously, I cannot just blurt that out. So, I weirdly ask in the middle of the film, "Hey, by the way, how was your dog?" She was quite surprised obviously. I had never met her dog and she doesn't talk much about it, she just mentioned she had one. She answered that he is aging but well. We moved on, but I couldn't shake a weird feeling. Anyway, she goes home the next day and calls me after a while. She asked, "Why did you ask about my dog yesterday? How did you know? He passed away last night, around the same time you asked about him." I was both shocked and unsurprised at the same time. I don't have an explanation. It seems like a weird coincidence since her dog was not something usually on my mind. It never happened to me again. Not sure this counts. I was in it, but wasn't happening to me. Pull into a fast food drive-thru in Odessa, Texas, my first time there. My turn at the speaker, and I place my order. It's been a long drive, so I'm treating myself and being a little picky, asking nicely, and building a customized meal. Cashier listens, and says again, "You ate all that already?" Me, huh? Cashier, "Oh, I'm sorry. Someone who sounds just like you is just through here, placed the exact same order." Me, "Hey, cool. Weird, but cool." I get to the window and the girl looks at me with this exasperated expression, opens the window and says, "It is you." Me? Cashier calls her manager over and points at me, shows him the order, says nothing. Manager, "Welcome back. Was there a problem with your order?" Me, "No, I haven't gotten it yet." Manager, clearly confused, "I made your order myself." Cashier points at time on receipt, manager blinks, and says that's the same order, to her, looks at me, back at her, and says, "And that's him." Cashier, I said the same thing. Both of them looked genuinely upset, and confused. It got worse when I told them I had never been in Odessa before. As the manager was handing me my food, he laughed and visibly relaxed. The other guy had long hair, he explained, pointing to my cap. Like, halfway down his back. "You just have a twin, I guess, with the same kind of car." His face when I took off my hat and showed him long hair, they might have been messing with me for fun. Shifts get long and people are creative. But if it was a game, they deserved careers in theater, because they looked terrified. Yes, I looked around for copies of my car or self while I was in town, nada. Went hiking late at night with my buddy when something big and bright flew right over us above the tree line. It was so bright we couldn't even look at it, and whatever it was, it didn't make a sound. Actually, it was probably the quietest moment of my life. I remember saying, "What the fuck?" But no sound came out of my mouth. Only lasted a few seconds and it was over. My 3-year-old daughter walked up to my husband one night and straight up said, "Grandpa's dead." Few moments later we get a call from my husband's sister saying that their father had passed away. Happened a few months back. Still creeps me out. Somebody replied, "I feel like the 3 and underage can be super creepy." When my son was not even 3 yet, he came to my room and kept telling me the lady was in his and his sister's room. I was half asleep and dismissed it, told him to snuggle up in my bed with me. So, he got in my bed, but every few minutes kept waking me up to tell me about the lady. Then he says she is at my bedroom door. So, in an effort to show him there is no lady and we should just go back to sleep, I pick him up and walk him in the dark out of my room. We stand in the hall and I say, "See, there is no lady." He points his finger down the hall where there is nothing to see at all and says, "Mama, she's right there. That's the lady. And this is her house." Nothing, not even a shadow where he was pointing. I kind of just tried not to show he was freaking me out and said, "Okay, she must be a nice lady," and took him back to my bed where he promptly fell asleep, and I stayed awake for hours thinking this lady in my 100-plus-year-old apartment must be hanging out watching me sleep. I was driving one night in a really foul mood and speeding. Like, when I say speeding, I mean at least 25 over the limit. Anyway, this car gets behind me and for some reason I can just tell it wasn't a cop. It was a full tinted Chevy truck with weird lights on it, like comically large aftermarket front headlights. Once it got behind me, I got a really eerie feeling I can't explain. Like my body just knew something was wrong. Anyway, I figured if it was a cop, they would light me up for speeding, but for some reason they just kept pace with me, also speeding themselves. So, at this point I'm getting a little weirded out, so I turn off the freeway and they follow me. I turn into a gas station and get out. I figure if I'm going to get axe murdered, at least the cameras will pick it up and give my family some closure. Something just didn't sit right with me. I knew something was up. As I'm getting out of my car, the truck rolls its windows down. And what I saw still haunts me to this day. It was a heavily disfigured guy, the only likes of which I can compare to that guy Rocky Dennis from the movie about the guy with a crazy disfigured head who falls for that girl who loves him for him and not the abomination that is his face. And he starts to motion me with his finger, like telling me to come closer. I don't care if he was going to give me the winning Powerball numbers, there was no way in hell I was going to approach his car. I bolt inside the gas station. At this point my whole body is shaking. I try and tell the clerk what's going on as they stare at me, probably thinking I'm drunk or high off my ass, as my story doesn't make any sense. I go to look outside and the truck is gone. I still have nightmares to this day. When I was young, my parents and I relocated across the country to Maine. We lived in a very small town and our house was old, beat up and on many acres deep in the forest. It had 2 stories, with the top story being the main level and the bottom story being the bedroom level. My bedroom had several large windows that looked out into the forest. I don't remember having curtains or blinds, but I'm sure I must have, because my mother never forgot details like that when decorating my bedrooms as a child, but I must have left them open one night. I remember waking up in darkness, with a faint glowing orb of light hovering just outside my window. I watched it in utter terror as it went slowly across one window, and then the next, before pausing, flashing briefly into my bedroom, before shifting into the third and final window and disappearing altogether. I was so upset by the ordeal that I went and woke my parents up, and my stepfather stormed the backyard with his gun in hand. There was nothing and no sign of the strange orb. My eyes are watering as I write this. Deep down, as an adult looking back, I realized that orb was anything but magic. It was someone's flashlight. It never happened again, but I'm still afraid of having window blinds open at night. Thanks for listening to Reddit Rundown. Give a thumbs up and subscribe, and help me get to 1,000 subs. Leave a comment below on what kind of topics or stories you would like to hear. You can also check out other videos on my channel. Thanks and have an awesome day.